What? Where am I? A girl says amidst a hazy darkness. Amidst this darkness, something emerges. People discussing a majesty who looks at her son strangely. For them, it's inconceivable to think the king would mistreat his son. They prefer to believe the majesty shows tough love. What are they saying? The lost girl speaks again, and then the whispers return. Anyway, the prince has grown significantly since we last saw him, hasn't he? A woman converses with her friends. They agree the prince far exceeds the average height of men, admired for his virility. If only Queen Elise were here to see, one of the friends comments, catching the lost girl's attention. If she heard correctly, this place, this world, must be the same as the novel she read. This girl is someone reincarnated from another world, who was hit by a truck while trying to save a kitten, but she's actually glad to know this. Her previous life was pathetic and suffering. Maybe in this new world, things will be different. The cat she saved before must have brought her luck. And now, it doesn't matter which character she reincarnated into, as she knows the story from beginning to end. Living knowing what will happen feels like cheating. But which character did our heroine reincarnate into? An elegant villain? A wealthy princess? Or perhaps a simple and friendly peasant girl? The darkness ceases, and her normal vision finally returns. And as she gets lost in her thoughts, someone in royal attire approaches her, lifting her hand and holding it in the air with ease and delicacy. But how? She reincarnated into a different world, not as a character, but as a beautiful white kitten. She tries to speak with the uncomfortable discovery, but only meows come out of her mouth. She could have become the main character or the villain, but she's not even human now, but a kitten the size of a palm. Her hands are now covered in soft, white fur, or would it be more appropriate to say paws? In the modern world, cats are adored and loved by many people worldwide. But here, it's different. This is a tragic story recommended by her friend in her previous life. A book that torments and captivates readers at the same time. On the continent of Demeter, Huppert is the largest empire. This is where Killian Günther Reinhardt, the protagonist, reigns as an emperor. At the foundation of this empire, a prophecy was made. The cursed cats will bring everything and everyone in the empire to a terrible end. This terrified and superstitious people who feared curses above all else. Frightened, they pursued and killed every cat they found. In a few centuries, not even a single cat was seen in the empire, not even a piece of fur or whisker. The prophecy did not come true, and thus, the kingdom had a flourishing, prosperous, and peaceful origin. And amidst this scenario, our heroine is a cat. Will her end come shortly after the beginning of this new life? In this empire, children are taught from an early age that cats are dreadful omens and must be killed the moment they are seen. Amidst this atmosphere of uncertainty and fear, she finds herself stared at by the prince with red eyes, her heart beating so hard it feels like it wants to jump out of her mouth. They are interrupted by the prince's guards, who ask what is happening. Nothing, he quickly responds, and then tells them to hunt another day, as he is indisposed. The soldiers then depart. Looking at Killian, the white kitten has no doubt. She knows those eyes and that expression. In the empire of Huppert, only members of the royal family have red eyes. And among this family, those who could inherit Queen Elise's ebony hair were few. In fact, only one achieved such a feat, Killian himself. The one who captured her is the future emperor of the kingdom of Huppert, described as the fiercest tyrant to have ever existed. He knows about the prophecy involving cats, and that scares the little cat. Would this be fair? In theory, she didn't participate in the violence the cats of the empire were accused of committing. She is just a poor human who died saving a cat and has now reincarnated as one. Desperate, she begins to exclaim, "Your Highness, there's a human here. I'm a cat on the outside, but I have the soul of a human woman." But to her sadness, only meows are emitted from her. Despite this, the prince wonders if that is a cat since he has never seen a real one. The little cat exclaims again desperately, "Let's make a deal. I know the future of this empire. It will collapse soon," but only meows and grunts come from her. The prince just looks curiously at the poor scandalous kitten. He then puts her in his pocket and walks back to his noble house. And meanwhile, the poor kitten was sure he wants to kill her somewhere else. Taken by chills that run up her spine, she is caught again and placed on a table, trembling as she waits for her sad fate. The prince comments that she looks very different from what he saw in the books. The images the empire made of cats were much more frightening and eerie. It's almost a crime to say that this beautiful white cat is a threat. At least one of the things described was correct. They have an incredible talent for charming humans. This explains why people find them so cute. The little cat is shocked. The intrigued prince observes the animal carefully and tries to perform various tricks, asking it to shake, roll over, give a high five, and finally, to bite his finger. The little cat wonders if he'll use this as a reason to kill her later. With not much option, she complies and gives a small bite to Killian's finger. That must have hit the prince like a wave of cuteness because he's left speechless. He finds the kitten very clever. It's as if she understands what he's saying. Perhaps she's the only animal capable of such a thing. But one thing troubles him: every animal needs to eat. What should he feed the poor little kitten? This sparks hope again in the white cat since he wants to feed her. So he must not want to kill her so soon. Killian puts some milk in a bowl, perhaps instinctively. The kitten feels lucky to still be alive, considering the history of previous cats. She sees that Killian seems to be around 18 or 19 years old. He inherited the throne of the empire shortly after becoming an adult, so it shouldn't take long. The story really begins with Killian already on the throne, so the lost cat is in the prelude of the story. The prince finally gives the milk to the sad kitten and tells her to eat. Milk made for humans may not be good for cats. They can get stomach aches, but she seems hungry, so she tries it anyway. And the taste of the food surprises her a lot. It's warm and delicious. Perhaps she has a bit of a cat's soul now. She licks the plate with such vigor that she gets milk all over herself. They say cats are intelligent and cruel creatures, but this one seems quite pitiful, thinks the prince. The kitten is so small and fragile that he feels he could break her at any moment by accident. The cat thinks that maybe this is an insult, and this really makes the prince think deeply. How could something so small, cute, and fragile kill people? That's what the poor little kitten was trying to say all along. At that moment, another person appears there, apologizing to the prince. Killian immediately picks up the tiny white kitten and tucks her into his pocket. The kitten thinks he did it precisely to prevent anyone else from seeing her, but it was so abrupt that it hurt her a bit, calling him stupid. The person who arrived there mentions that she heard that Killian liked the dish she made the day before, so she came to express her gratitude personally. The girl has been worried since the prince lost his appetite, and she's thrilled to see him eat the food she made herself. This reminds the kitten of something similar in the story. A woman with a soft and delicate voice who insists on preparing food for the prince. Someone who would do anything to satisfy her hunger for power. An evil countess. She is Catherine Harmon Gisela. Catherine seduced Killian's father, the emperor, and took over the throne of the empress. A 20-year-old woman who received the emperor's favors. The main characters had a lot of trouble dealing with her because she is intelligent and influential. Today's meal is lamb seasoned with salt and pepper, served with sauce made with premium wine from the Bordeaux region. And this meal is part of her terrible plan. She used a potion of black magic, the same potion she used on the emperor. Catherine insists, trying to make the prince appreciate her hard work in the kitchen and eat that meal, at least a single bite. That would already be enough for her goal. As Killian is intoxicated by the potion of black magic, he becomes more and more addicted to this ingredient, and gradually, he can be controlled by a puppet made by Catherine herself, controlling him as long as he's on the throne. Catherine strengthens her tactic, saying she feels bad when the prince eats alone, so she wants to ensure he eats well before she leaves. Killian gets annoyed with all the chatter and asks if she'll stop babbling if he eats. The treacherous girl in red dresses backs off a bit and says that His Majesty ordered her to ensure the prince has a good meal. She's just following orders. Killian picks up the fork and prepares to eat whatever. The kitten hears the clinking of the cutlery and soon becomes filled with worry. She can't let Killian eat that meal. Otherwise, Countess Gisela wins. The kitten is running out of options, so she resorts to her secret weapon, the desperate scratch. This causes great discomfort to Killian, who immediately stops the fork hand and takes it to the worried kitten. But he can't stop her. Now his hand is also a target. She didn't want to resort to this, but it's for the prince's own good. She scratches him again while exclaiming, "Bad food! Don't eat that. It will destroy you. It will make your brain melt," even though only muffled meows are heard. This tries the prince's patience, saying to the countess that's enough. His father never cared about his eating habits. Besides, he's not hungry. The countess says he really must not be feeling well, so she leaves and wishes him a good night's rest. Killian doesn't like his new mark on one of his hands, and the fragile little kitten feels crestfallen. He confronts her, asking if she sees those scratches. The kitten just meows. What could she do? She must already look strange enough to him for being a cat. And now that she scratched him in the middle of dinner, the situation could get even more complicated. She tries to say, "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was trying to help you," while shaking her paw and tail, but again, only meows are heard. She realizes this doesn't help at all, and the prince's cold, piercing gaze makes her tremble before a fate that slowly returns to being bad. The little cat begins to regret. Should she have let him eat the food and plan her escape instead of saving him? Even if she should, it doesn't align with her own conscience. She couldn't stand by and watch someone become addicted to such a terrible drug that controls people. In the original story, Killian was already addicted to Catherine's potion from the start. But now, at this moment, the addiction might be avoidable since this is still in the prelude. And to do that, Killian must reject any and all food that the Countess may offer from now on. He strokes the little cat's head, asking if she was scared because he put her in the dark pocket of his jacket. He'll leave her outside now and hopes not to be scratched again. His gaze seemed like that of someone about to devour an enemy, but now he seems much cuter and friendlier. The prince then begins to feel a bit hungry, so he decides to resume his meal and picks up his fork again. The little cat starts to get flustered. How could she show that the food is dangerous for Killian? How can she say that the food is poisoned? At that moment, an idea blooms in her mind, and she starts to make certain movements back and forth and even scratches the table. But the prince doesn't understand any of it and starts to think that this cat might be a little crazy. She needs human language, something he can understand beyond speech. The white cat then uses the universal language of people, body language. She makes elaborate movements, pretending to eat that food and then feeling sick. Killian finally understands and asks if she's trying to tell him to stay away from the food. The kitten exclaims positive meows. Killian starts to feel like he's going crazy, but asks if the cat can indicate which foods he shouldn't eat. The cat quickly jumps around the royal table and marks all the foods he shouldn't eat. Still, the prince asks why he should avoid those foods, but then thinks, well, how would a cat know? But based on the cat's behavior, if he eats that, he'll feel sick and might faint, as if poisoned. That makes no sense to him. Is it possible that because she's a cat, she has special abilities? But in reality, it's because she's a human inside a cat's body. At that, the little cat thinks, what if I'm not a human trapped in a cat's body, but really a real cat? A 100% pure cat that has 0% chance of becoming human? How to proceed with this? How should she live like this? Still, the sad little kitten cannot falter. She refuses to remain pessimistic. That's not her style. She decides to stay close to the crown prince, who for now doesn't seem to want to kill her. And in her mind, they seem as close as true friends. Her fantasy may come true in the future, and at some point, she will find a way to become human again. The charm of a white kitten is irresistible, so she will use that to gain points with Killian and bring him closer to her. Killian admires this little white cat and even lets out a sincere smile, which delights the cat. She finally managed to draw a smile from that bitter and serious face. At that, one of the servants calls for the prince, saying His Majesty wants to see him in the second library as soon as possible. While the prince goes to the library, he leaves the little cat in his room under the covers to hide. And there, the kitten sees that this room is quite monotonous. It doesn't even seem to be inhabited by anyone. But when she thinks about it, she remembers that in the story, the prince spent most of his time at the academy and only stayed in the palace occasionally. The prince made it clear she could look at things if she got bored, but only within the room. After that, he hurried to see the emperor and left the kitten behind. When he returns, he takes off his clothes and heads to the bathroom to take a shower. His look is sad and serious. His body has several scars, and some seem very recent. After that, he returns to his bed and to the little white cat. For a moment, he had even forgotten about her, but he's glad to see her again and caresses her head gently, congratulating her for staying quiet. He gets ready to sleep, and the kitten must accompany him by lying on the bed. The kitten feels very comfortable, but smells something strange and peculiar. A sweet and red smell. It's blood. In the original story, Killian was severely and mercilessly disciplined by the emperor, who used absurdly cruel means to punish his own son. This could be the reason why he had to go see him today, thinks the kitten. She always wondered why the protagonists of fantasy novels were always so stoic. She thought it was to make them cooler, but maybe the reason was a bit darker. She also found Killian's past quite cliché, but now that she can witness it up close with her own eyes, it's much harder to swallow and digest. This reality now unfolds before her eyes. The smell of blood and the cold air sound more real than ever. This makes the little white kitten wonder how she could help this poor prince. She falls asleep leaning against his finger, which is very cozy for her. Killian had already fallen asleep, but he has another nightmare as he always does in his nights of sleep. He ends up waking up and sees something strange in front of him, something totally unexpected. A beautiful woman with long platinum hair and a body completely devoid of clothing, who sleeps peacefully beside him.